Hello, this is Arielle from Inconspicuous Bear. I'll be narrating the heroic version of the Cenarius encounter in Emerald Nightmare from a Guardian point of view. Cenarius is a two-phase encounter. The first phase features picking up a bunch of adds and making sure they're far away from Cenarius so that the raid doesn't kill themselves on Dreadthorns, and the second phase is just a simple taunt swap. Now, since Guardians generally don't have the best range to pick up, especially from multiple locations out of all the tanks, we're better off just sitting on Cenarius for most of Phase 1, which is what I do and what you'll see in the video. Obviously, it's entirely possible to do the ads, but we're much better off just sitting on Cenarius, so I'm just going to assume that if you're watching this, that you're sitting on Cenarius and letting whatever other tank you have handle the ads. For positioning, there are two things you need to be aware of. The first is where the cleansed ground is and or will appear, because you can't have the boss inside the green patches because he'll just the green patches will evaporate and that's really bad. Also, you need to be able to cleanse your stacks periodically throughout the encounter, and you'll be primarily using the original cleanse pool from each wave of ads to do that, because moving around to the other little green patches puts the raid in danger of getting themselves hurt by Dreadthorns, which you want to avoid, which means you also have to keep the boss 30 yards or more away from the ads to make sure they're not getting thorns. So generally you end up staying against a wall somewhere so that the raid can have most of the rest of the room in order to position correctly and handle the ads. Once you get into Phase 2, you just end up moving around the platform in either direction, clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't really matter. So just make sure that you are moving out of the ground pools as you go around and try to avoid getting cut off by brambles. That's pretty much the only thing you have to worry about for positioning terms in Phase 2. In Phase 1, the primary mechanic you have to worry about is Dreadthorns, which is like an AoE buff that Cenarius has, where he and all the other ads that are within 30 yards reflect damage back to their attacker. The reason this is a problem is because you don't want the ads to be getting thorns because they have to be burned as quickly as possible, therefore you don't want the raid to kill themselves. As far as you're concerned, you don't really care because A, your health pool is massive, and B, you generally aren't doing hilarious amounts of single target damage anyway, so you end up just kind of sitting on the boss and doing your normal rotation, taking a bit of extra damage, but nothing that's really a big deal. The important thing for Dreadthorns is just positioning and make sure he's not within 30 yards of any of the ads. The second thing to pay attention to is something called Creeping Nightmares. Basically, this is a debuff, a stacking debuff that you get, or that everyone in the raid gets throughout the encounter, and I think it stacks like every 2 or 3 seconds or something, and every stack increases the damage that you take from it. So as a tank, the damage as a tank is generally pretty meaningless because it takes a lot of stacks for it to get to a point where it really hurts. And since you're tanking the boss generally by the cleansing pool anyway, you can just walk into the pool and clear your stacks whenever you want. And since most strats anyway involve cleansing wisps, your raid never really needs to cleanse themselves pretty much because they have the wisp pools, so you get this big giant pool all to yourself. So just cleanse every 20 stacks or something. It's not really anything to worry about, but you should still cleanse yourself because you don't want to piss off your healers. In Phase 2, Cenarius gains an ability called Spear of Nightmares, which is basically the tank swap debuff. He does a bunch of physical damage, 5 million or something, to his primary target with this ability, and then you create huge patches of crud, nasty stuff under you, depending on how much damage you took from it. So you just want to cool down every single one as much as possible to reduce the size of the ground pools, and therefore give your raid more room to move. And that's pretty much it. Those are the only mechanics of the encounter. It's mostly this encounter is 90% your raid dealing with brambles, which you mostly don't care about because it can't target you, but it's a lot of waiting around and making sure everyone else gets their job done. In terms of talents, you can pretty much take anything for your level 15 talent depending on how comfortable you are and what role you're doing. Frenzy you obviously only ever take if you are tanking ads, because you'll end up getting a lot of rage over time from all of the ads that are up, plus having Thrash up on Cenarius most of the time. Bristling Fur is good if you end up getting high stacks and can't cleanse yourself while tanking Cenarius. And then Brambles obviously is just really good DPS because you are taking damage like pretty much every second already, so you'll get a lot of extra ticks on Brambles for damage as opposed or over and above what you generally get from like melee attacks and stuff. The next set where there's a choice is between Balance and Feral Affinity. Balance you pretty much only ever take if you are dealing with ads. Feral you can take for if you're doing ads or the boss, because it allows you to catweave when the ads are dead, which is really powerful, and also allows you to catweave in Phase 2, which is again really powerful because it's basically just a DPS check. The rest of the talents are pretty cookie-cutter, no matter what you are doing. Galactic Guardian is better than Soul of the Forest, and Incarnation is pretty not useful in this fight, even if you are doing ads. Guardian of Balloon is the only useful talent in that tier because a lot of the damage is magical anyway, which means Earth Warden isn't going to really help all that much. Plus, you don't really get a chance to reset it anyway, so because there aren't frequent swaps, so it's not really that helpful. And then Rend and Tear. You can technically take Pulverize if you are on Cenarius full time, but if you have Elises, you're going to take Rend and Tear anyway, and then Lunar Beam just doesn't do enough to justify taking it. One semi-important thing that I do want to mention for Guardians is that you can use Rage as a Sleeper to clear Brambles, which can be very powerful depending on what your group comp is. So in order to do that, basically once every ad wave dies, your co-tank comes back, taunts Cenarius, or not every ad wave, every second ad wave. Your co-tank comes back and taunts Cenarius, you use Rage as a Sleeper, go clear some Brambles, and then come back. It lasts 10 seconds, but when you combine it with, say, Roar or something, you'll be able to clear like basically an entire patch of Brambles by yourself. Just make sure you have like mark reversal up when you're doing it, because you will end up taking a lot of damage. So you just mark reversal, clear all the patches, and then Frenzy Regen at the end, and you can put yourself in as an extra way to clear Brambles, which can be very useful for your raid. Hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck on Cenarius. Get Sarah, please. Clear Brambles.
That was mean.
Someone?
You said butterfly.
There's Brambles close to the raid, be careful.
They're on me.
Again, don't stand in the ad circles. Focus down individual dreads. Mana things up. Alright, go ahead and taunt. I'm going to clear some Brambles. There's a bunch of Brambles close to the raid.
Do we have to clear soon?
More mana.
Stacks, yeah, we did. Next rotation.
It's gone.
Clear these Brambles that are next to the raid.
Careful on Cenarius.
Stop, do not touch Cenarius at all.
Skull dragon.
There's a bunch of Brambles here that need to not be here.
Get close so you can dodge them easier.
I can do it.
I can clear in 5.
I got it.
Breath,
Hey,
same direction.
Second Drake.
Forget there's green spots up.
Okay. Everyone get to Cenarius. Hero. Divisive Brambles are on you, be careful. After the first spear, all clear. What? Brambles raid, raid. Okay, clearing brambles.
Tangled.
Get Malfurion out. All ranged on Malfurion.
I can clear Bram.
Do it. Ranged. I'm not kidding.
Tide.
There's brambles in the way, sort of.
I wasn't able to get much.
Lagging super bad.
No fucking no way. Fuck me.
Right?
Except not.
That's holy! You got a legendary, buddy.